While we're talking about getting out and getting some exercise, a new short walk taking in the city and countryside around Bath has been launched by the National Trust ahead of a British walking festival which starts next Saturday. I've been to meet Tom Boden, manager of the National Trust in Bath, and let me just let you in on a tiny little secret. Just before we began our conversation, which you'll hear in a second, we climbed the steepest hill. So I was trying very hard to catch my breath. Tom, where have you brought me? You've brought me nicely uphill, a little bit breathless, but well worth it.
Well, we're here sitting in the field next to Prior Park as part of the Prior Park Landscape Garden Walk, and we're looking out across Bath over to beyond Beeching Cliff on the left, down to the main city centre in the middle, in the bowl surrounded by green hills, with one of the best viewpoints, I think, around the city.
And on a sunny day, you cannot beat it. You can see every landmark you can imagine for miles.
Absolutely. Well, you can see here right through to Pulteney Bridge with the Abbey, the Empire Hotel, the Royal Crescent, and up to the hills beyond and Kelston Round Hill in the distance. It's the feeling that Ralph Allen tried to create with his big mansion at Prior Park, where you can almost look out and embrace the city.
Now, where we are is one of the routes that people can come and take and have a nice little nosy across the city of Bath. But there's this new walk to make sure that you basically get the most perfect panoramic view of the city.
Absolutely. We're really delighted to launch this new Walk to the View, which takes people from the Abbey in the centre on an hour and a half circular walk up to Bathwick Hill, which has got another absolutely fabulous view, even closer to the city, so you almost feel like you can reach out and touch it and get back to the city within an hour and a half. And we're just very keen to raise people's awareness that this is right on their doorstep and people can get out and do it and experience it for free.
And with the hills, you get plenty of exercise.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of the best ways to get exercise and just to improve your quality of life is to get out in the countryside and walk. So we're very keen to find ways to encourage people to do that.
I mean, tourists are always encouraged to come to Bath, but your first stopping points may well be right in the city centre and not those couple of miles further out. You know that these landmarks are there. You've got the Roman baths. You know the Abbey is there, looking absolutely splendid as ever. But you don't necessarily, as a tourist, know to take that step outside.
Well, for me, it's really important that actually walks and rides out from the city centre were very much part of what Georgian Bath was about. People came to Georgian Bath as visitors, they came to take the waters, but they also came to take the air by getting out of the city and experiencing the countryside. And so what we wanted to try and do is find a way to encourage that again in the 21st century.
So let's talk about some of the route. It begins near Bath Abbey, but where does it take us?
It takes you from Bath Abbey, round past Pulteney Bridge, onto Great Pulteney Street, one of the great Georgian terraces in the city.
So well inside the city centre.
Absolutely, and picks up a number of highlights of the city on the way. So you then go past the Holborn Museum, through Sydney Gardens, onto the Kennet and Avon Canal, and then from the Kennet and Avon Canal there's a little bridge that people often miss, a little footbridge that takes you up a set of steps, and then you're into the countryside, into the land the National Trust owns and manages on Bathwick Hills, and then you have a lovely little circuit around those fields and come back straight to the centre. So we wanted to make something that was really easy to follow, that people would get a lot of highlights, a lot of variety and history in their walk, but also with this stunning view at the end of it.
One of the things you've mentioned there is making it an easy walk. I've done the Skyline Walk, which is a 6-mile panoramic walk around the sort of the top of Bath. It can be quite difficult in places, but also making sure you follow the directions can be quite tough too. Absolutely, and we did quite a lot of research to see how people were enjoying it. The existing big Skyline Walk is the most downloaded walk in the National Trust. We knew that a lot of people were enjoying it, but it had its challenges and it wasn't for everyone. So we wanted to find a way to offer something, a sort of easier way in, if you like, and then hope that people would explore further once they discovered the countryside was on their doorstep. That's Tom Boden, who was talking to me about the Bath Skyline and the new walk that's been set up by the National Trust. We'll hear more from him between 8 and 9. And I was asking him about the new tourist attraction, which is planned for Bath. One architect hoping to find funding for a £5 million pod called the Aquai, which would give you a brand new panoramic view of Bath from on high, from a pod which would launch into the sky from Pulteney Weir. This new tourist attraction, it's really split opinion in the city of Bath, so we'd like to hear what you think this morning, whether it would spoil the view or whether people should, as Tom believes, just get the shoes on, get outdoors, take a walk up the hill, steep hill as it is, and get to the top and enjoy the view from there. Your views are welcome. Earlier in the programme, you might have heard us talking about this new short walk taking in the city and countryside around Bath. The walk was launched by the National Trust, and I was speaking to the manager of the National Trust in Bath, Tom Boden, who has a long heritage of protecting Bath's history. I had the chance to ask his opinion of the new tourist attraction proposed for the city, the Aquae. We're sitting in this field overlooking Bath, and we've now got a herd of cows just wandering through as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect, isn't it? Absolutely gorgeous. Tell me then a bit about why you feel it's so important to make use of this outdoor space.
Well, people know that Bath is a very special place, a World Heritage City. They also know that the fact that it's surrounded by countryside is a very important part of that, and it's recognised by UNESCO, etc. But until you actually go out and experience it, you don't really know what it means and what's there. And, you know, wanting people to care about the countryside and wanting them to help us look after it, we feel it's important that we unlift the veil, if you like, and say, look, you can come out, it is accessible. There are lots of fabulous walks, and it's for everyone to enjoy.
One of the things that, of course, you're responsible for is the conservation and maintenance of these sites as well. Mm-hmm. How important do you find it to keep a close eye on these routes, that they are being, you know, carefully looked after and not abused by people using them?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of our principal activities really on the Skyline, is to keep an eye on how the routes work and to look after them if there are any issues. We have a fantastic range of volunteers who help us do that. They do regular walks around the Skyline every week to let us know what's happening on the ground, because we're a relatively small team who actually are paid to manage it. So we rely hugely on them, and it's very important that we get the balance right between how we look after it and how people can use it.
So how did you get involved in this part of the world?
Well, I've come from the Bath Preservation Trust, actually, having worked there for 6 years as head of museums there. And so I come from actually trained as a teacher at one stage, as a history teacher. So I have an interest in heritage more generally, but I've also had a passion for the outdoors and things like involved in forest school movement and that kind of thing. So for me, this is the perfect combination of all my interests.
You're mentioning the Bath Preservation Trust. Of course, there's a very current project that everyone's talking about in Bath, and this is the Aquae, mm-hmm. which is a new tourist attraction that's in the pipeline, £5 million worth, smack bang next to Pulteney Weir. Does that make you fearful, or are you slightly caught up in the in between? Weren't thinking, yes, it's great to bring more tourists and have that beautiful view?
Well, for me, I mean, it's obviously a very striking and an important proposal, but we would always wait until we see the details of the planning design before coming to an opinion on that. I mean, that said, it will be right in the middle, and it will, you know, be visible, and views out from the skyline and from the city looking back to the skyline will be affected by that. So of course we want to take a very close look. I can see why people want to experience the views, and indeed that's really what this walk is all about. It's saying that you can come and do that by walking up the hill and gaining the experience of the walk as you go as part of that.
We're very lucky to be here and be able to see that, but as you say, it's just a short walk away.
Exactly. So with the new walk being launched, that you can do in an hour and a half, you know, it doesn't cost you any money to do. It's got great benefits. You can see lots of things as you go around and have that view. Okay, it's not the same as the view that's been proposed by the Aquae, but actually it's a very striking place to stand and get the sense of what Bath is all about, which I completely see why people would want to do.
There is a great deal of work that's done, generally speaking, to preserve the history of Bath.
There is, yes, absolutely, and I think you've always got to bear that in mind with any future proposal. And we, at the Trust in particular, are interested to look at what affects the land that we look after and manage. So, and the skyline is a key part of that.
Well, I feel very lucky that you brought me uphill. I know I might have puffed and panted on my way, but worth every step. Thank you ever so much.
Oh, thank you.
And I can assure you that every step was very steep on that route. That's Tom Boden, who is from the National Trust.